In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, let's break it down! Unstoppable! Not on my watch.
Freeze! Don't move! Ever get that feeling of deja vu? Winky face.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to A Hero's Welcome, episode 29. Thank you so much for joining us on a special Blizzcon edition. My name is Wes. I'm here, as always, with Andrew. So how'd you like the new intro, Andrew?
I'm super excited about the new intro. I know we've been talking about making a new intro for quite a while, so shout out to Lucio for giving us some new content to work with. We're always looking for new stuff to add to the podcast and some good music. So
Right, and I'm looking forward to the future, what Lucio's able to bring, some more tracks.
Yeah, always some good music. We're big fans of music, and we always enjoy hearing some new stuff. So,
and it was only fitting because we always end the show on the Lucio song, so I figured we would get both the healing song and also the speed boost song, right?
Yeah, good. Good music, awesome stuff to work with. So it's really cool. Glad we could change it up a little bit, and hopefully we'll get some more stuff to look forward to later.
Yeah, so this is, of course, our BlizzCon episode, so we have tons of things to cover, and we're going to do our best to try to, cover everything that's important to you. I just wanted to mention right at the beginning something pretty astounding, actually. The original founder, Alan Adham, actually returned to the company after 12 years. He's actually the original guy, and he retired a little while ago, and it was just really interesting. I didn't see this coming, but apparently, according to Morheim, he's the one that instigated the whole thing. He's the one that convince everyone to quit their day jobs and let's make video games.
I know, awesome. It's super hype. I've been looking forward to what was going to happen at BlizzCon. I don't think anybody kind of seen this coming, but always great to have new blood and old blood back into Blizzard. With a lot of people that have been leaving in the past, who've been wondering, what's going to happen with Blizzard. How they're shaking things up, and it's awesome to have someone as important, as integral part of the team as Alan back in it. So awesome to see him back, and excited to see what's going to happen with him back.
Yeah, just BlizzCon is just so special. Always look forward to it. Obviously, they usually have a bunch of announcements, all the new stuff that's coming along. Obviously, this was a big year for Overwatch. The game launched this year, and they built this huge arena. Something they'd never actually done before is one of the it was like stage C, but they actually built an arena, because normally they just have tons of chairs just sitting on the ground. But yeah, they actually went out of the way to build this nice arena. It looked really well done. There's about 2,600 people seated there. But it was really nice. Something I actually found out talking to a few people is they had a VIP lounge. And I think what's going on there is they're actually invited investors. They didn't really spotlight this, or they didn't really talk about it. But what was going on was there was investors, other people, athletes and celebrities and stuff. They were coming and watching, check this out, look at all these people joining, and just seeing the hype and actually kind of selling it, because, it played a lot. We'll talk a lot about the E-League later, but it has a lot to do with, getting investors involved.
Yeah, it's just awesome to see. The whole presentation, start to finish was amazing. As usual, BlizzCon has always done such a great job of putting on it. Like we've talked about in the past, they talk about it all the time. It's a crazy week for them to get everything ready and to, put on BlizzCon, but it always just seems like they just have it so well planned out, even though, half of them say that they're running around like they don't know what they're doing, but it just always turns out so amazing. So, yeah, like you were talking about the VIP lounge, it's awesome to see them bringing people in and showing them, this is Overwatch. This is what, we're looking at, and this is what it can be, and it's such an amazing thing. They did a great job.
Yeah, and I believe in the next year, when we see the Overwatch League, unravel, I think we'll see those celebrities, we'll see those investors, and that's very important. We've always talked about in the past, having that money there and having that stability, so the players and the sponsors, it's just like a cyclical thing. You kind of need them all to be working together. And
right. Everything has to come together at the right time, in the right place, and all at once. And it kind of it requires a little bit of effort. A lot of them, we've seen in the past people try to bring, leagues together. And, we're seeing even now with, the other tournaments, small tournaments come together. They work out great for the time being, but they don't always end up, doing so well, because they don't really generate the kind of publicity and the viewership that some of them do.
Yeah, and another unique thing is the game is relatively new. It hasn't even been out for a year. We don't have established, years and years of tournament experience, and all these organizations already in. So Blizzard just coming out and saying, we're going to fork out the cash. We're going to have this ability. We're going to do these combines, and we'll get into it a little bit more later on. But they're really sticking their neck out there. But it is their baby, it is their product, and obviously they're going to reap a lot of rewards from that as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they're doing such a great job. Like you said, I mean, it just came out. It's not even been out that long. The game is growing so immensely, so quickly, and I think that really shows, that they're behind this game 110%, and that they're going to be a part of actually making this game do well, and provide a esport that's going to be growing. And it's important to know, like you said, that it's happening so fast, but it's important that it's happening so early on that a lot of these investors and people that are going to be able to put together teams and stuff, they're going to be on a pretty even field, not across the board where you have certain sports and other games that, you have your, teams that have been established for a long time. They're kind of the reigning champs. They're always there. They're always, doing well. And so it's important that it's all being done so close together.
Yep, and I mean, in my opinion, the Overwatch League was the single most important thing. I mean, we know a little bit about it before BlizzCon, but I think that was the single, biggest news, especially for Overwatch, but I think in the entire convention altogether.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it was definitely, it's such an important thing. I still think, we're talking about it right now. It still hasn't even sank in how big this announcement is and how much it's going to change things and grow things as soon as, we get some more information about it and see where it's actually going to go. But, I mean, it looks so good right now.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be covering all that news in this podcast, in the following year. But I believe, maybe we'll, be doing some other coverage as well, and, have, maybe a website and thing facilitating that. So, some things are in the making, but in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of things going on right now, and hopefully, you guys will get to see some of that in the coming months. But, yeah, definitely look forward to more stuff from us.
Yeah, so another awesome thing about about BlizzCon is when you're there, you have the Blizzard team there, right? All the teams that make all the games. Overwatch is Team 4. They have a different teams for everybody, so they were previously on a Titan, but now they're on Overwatch, of course. So yeah, you just have Team 4 walking around, and you just approach them and talk to them and say, hey, you work at Team 4. You can ask them questions about state of the game, or what's the direction, or just whatever comes to mind. But I mean, not even just Team 4, but even Morheim. I mean, you see these like CEOs, they're just hanging out. They're like the most humble guys, and it's a really unique experience.
Yeah, I heard we got some pretty good questions even this year at the Q&A. I know a lot of times not too many really important questions get asked at the Q&A, so I heard tell that there's someone out there asking the big questions for all the people that want to know.
Yeah, so I don't know about other people, but often I feel these Q&A sessions are full of questions that don't really matter to the people, you know what I'm saying? So I did take time out of my BlizzCon event and wait in line to ask Jeff Kaplan and the boys a question. So we'll talk a little bit about it later, but yeah, I was able to ask a question, a pretty popular question, but yeah, so we'll cover that later. But it was a nice experience to ask Jeff, in person.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to hear how that worked out for you. So
yeah, well, Jeff's kind of a sassy guy, he's always been that way. But anyways, so obviously there's a bunch of news we could cover too. But we did want to mention before we hop into news that we will be giving away our very first Two Moon Studios t-shirt. And I guess the way we're going to do this is just follow us on Twitter, and probably this time next week or so, we'll just, raffle. We'll just pick one by random.
Right. So just follow us on Twitter at Two Moon Studios. You can find us there. Like I said, we always have the links in the show notes, and you can get it from there, or you can just go on Twitter and find us. Pretty easy. Yeah, it's just a little way for us. Like I said, we got a lot of things coming in the works, and we're excited to get all this stuff rolling for you guys, and excited to kind of give away something back to you guys for sticking with us and listening to us.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump in the news because there's a ton of it, as you could expect. So let's talk about the Overwatch overview. That's where a lot of the news came out. A lot of, in detail analysis. So they had a panel up there. They had Jeff Kaplan, they had Jeff Goodman, they had Michael Chu and Arnold Zhang as well. And it was very interesting. We learned a lot of things. Obviously, one of the most important subjects was Sombra that was announced in the opening ceremony.
Right, so if you didn't have a chance to watch the opening ceremony, I definitely recommend watching that. It's an amazing job they did putting that together, and I think it really worked really good. I mean, it played off really good, so it's very interesting.
Yeah, out of all the announcements of the entire opening ceremony, Sombra was definitely got the biggest response from the audience, and I mean, the whole convention center is just shaking. I mean, you could just hear it. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I mean, Sombra looks like a really cool hero, so yeah, definitely interested to see how she shakes things up.
So yeah, let's talk about Sombra from what we know. Obviously, as this recording, she's actually in the PTR, so a lot of so she's up there. You could get your hands on her. I did want to recommend that same trick that I recommended in the past still works. If you're downloading the PTR, you can just copy and paste your data folder from your regular Overwatch, folder to the Overwatch test, because it creates a whole new game. So you don't have to download a bunch of gigs of information. It's really fast that way. Just a little pro tip. But so Sombra's out there. Check her out. And, we're probably expecting her probably with Season 3 coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably just before Season 3. We'll probably see her released into live so people can kind of get their hands on her before Season 3 launches and kind of feel her out and see how they work.
Right, so during this panel, they talked a little bit about Sombra, gave us a little bit of lore. A lot of people are into the lore and the stories behind the characters. So with Sombra, she was a victim of the Omnic Crisis, as was, a lot of people that are living in this time frame. So she was actually orphaned, and what that allowed her to do is, she spent a lot of time on her PC. She was at the computer a lot, from a very young age, and so she learned a lot about PC. She became a hacker, and I think she used those skills to manipulate people. Be able to steal. I mean, obviously, she was probably not the richest person.
As a young orphan, spending all her time on her computer and probably not having a lot of, friends and people in her life, spending a lot of time, becoming this hacker and this person, she gains all these, skills that allow her to use these skills in, whatever way she chooses to. And without, a lot of people in her life, stuff like that, obviously she turns to this, using these skills to manipulate people maybe in the way that, others wouldn't and such. So, yeah, I mean, it's just having these skills at such a young age impacts her life in such a way.
Yeah, so I guess what happens is eventually somewhere down the line she does get noticed by someone, and what happens is she just goes underground. She deleted all of her files. She pretty much, erased her existence, right? And she just went underground, and that probably, was good in some sense, but it probably had some other side effects as well, like maybe, had some Los Muertos, interaction there, maybe with the gangs and so on.
Right. So it'd be interesting to see if they kind of expand on that. We don't know a lot about that situation as far as who it was that kind of, found her or whatnot, and exactly where that kind of leads. But basically it drives her underground, and she kind of has to hide out, and she has to kind of adapt and figure out what her next move is.
Yeah, and we also see in the opening trailer, or one of the cinematics they had, is she had some implants installed on her. And it's pretty extensive. It's like her whole spine, the back of her skull, obviously. Seeing her, you can see those pink kind of...
Yeah, so we were wondering previously when we saw that leak of her picture, we were wondering what that was on the side of her skull. It seems to be that those are part of her implants, and then, like you said, it's pretty extensive. It goes all the way back down to her spine and in her back, which basically allows her to basically not need a computer. She's just able to hack anything within her own self. So.
Yeah, so I think, with those, cybernetic capacity or whatever, so she was able to better herself as a hacker, like I said, not really necessarily needing a PC. I mean, she is the PC,
Yeah, so she's mobile. She doesn't have to be at her desk. She can, definitely take the fight to people and use those hacking skills offensively. So.
Yeah, and just to mention, in the opening ceremony, obviously we recommend checking it out. There's obviously quite a bit of trailers, the reveal trailer and everything. Definitely want to check that out if you haven't, but you probably have since you're listening to this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm sure everybody who's playing Overwatch right now is super excited about Sombra, and I'm sure they're invested in watching and seeing what's going on with that. But
so she does become involved with Talon, and we know Talon to be kind of this evil group. I mean, we know Widowmaker. I mean, they're the ones that turned her against her husband to murder him, and now, she's cold-blooded assassin, and also Reapers in that same group of people as well. So, we did see in the cinematic her working with those two individuals in particular. But yeah, so she does become, in league with Talon. But, we do notice that she's not really 100% loyal to Talon. She's kind of got her own agenda going on.
Yeah, I mean, she's a typical hacker. She's still continuing to use those skills that she learned at a young age and, that she's been able to better. She's using those skills still to manipulate people and kind of worm her way into her own agenda that she has. So we see that in the cinematic is she's using the situation. She's using Talon and their resources to kind of get what she wants. And we're not quite sure what it is she's looking for yet, but hopefully we'll get some more information.
Yeah, and during our episodes, we like to have like a strategy segment. We usually have it at the end. So there's so much news today, so we're not going to do a proper strategy segment, but we will cover her kit right now. Just these are the basic things, and it's important to note that it is PTR. I expect things to be changing, little things here and there, but we can go over her kit and get people understanding. Not everyone played her at the showroom floor or even the PTR, just knowing kind of beforehand going in.
Right, and I will mention, like you said, that it's PTR. Things are definitely going to change, I'm sure. But just the little bit that I was able to get my hands on her and kind of play her in the PTR, she does feel really good. And I think her kit really works really well, and I think that there's probably not going to be a lot of huge changes around her. I mean, I expect, maybe her ultimate or something like that crazy will get adjusted a little bit when we see how she kind of interacts with the other players and the other heroes, and kind of see how the meta unfolds. That can definitely change, but she definitely feels really good the way she is right now.
Yeah, I agree. She's definitely not the easiest character to pick up. I think understanding her kit and using her kit together in smart ways is a major improvement. But she is an offensive character, so I believe this is the 7th offensive character in the game right now. And she does have 200 health, which is kind of like the norm for offensive character.
Right. I mean, she's very similar to like a Tracer in a lot of ways. I mean, people are going to find when they get their hands on her that, she uses a machine pistol. She can unload that pretty quickly, but she does have quite a bit of spread with that, so you're going to want to be obviously closer. But, then you have your stealth and your translocator, things we're going to talk about. And she just, the little bit that I played her, like I said, she moves around. Like, she can get around the map. She can get behind lines. She's really going to be that kind of saboteur. She's going to break things up and really cause mayhem in there.
Yeah, so let's break down her kit. So she has a machine pistol. That's her main weapon. It's just one of them. It has 60 ammo, quite a bit. It kind of looks like a Uzi. You're able to discharge that ammo very, very rapidly, but it's a good amount of damage for sure. It does have a, like you said, a closer range or some spread, but you could definitely do some damage at medium range.
Medium range, you can definitely do a lot. I was actually surprised with the amount of damage you can do from medium range. The interesting thing with that is, like I said, kind of like Tracer, where you have that big spread at further distances. But you don't really have any control over that. Like with Tracer and even with like Soldier 76, you can kind of sporadically, let off and get back on the left click, and you can kind of control the spread. You don't really have much control over a machine pistol. It kind of spreads immediately. So you're pretty much like Tracer. You're just kind of emptying it right into somebody's face.
Yeah, and at the moment, this could change, but we're looking at about 8 damage per bullet, and obviously she's able to headshot with that. So let's talk about her next ability, the Thermoptic Camo. So this gives her stealth. A lot of people were speculating if stealth could even exist in this game, and we got some of those voiceovers in the past about potentially hinting towards the stealth character, but she does have that, and it's a 6-second cooldown.
It's very interesting. We talking about the Overwatch, the overview panel, and they talked about a lot of things, and one of the things they mentioned was specifically the stealth and kind of where they kind of came around with that, and even talking about, when they initially made Sombra, were designing Sombra, she was around even before Genji, or around the same time as Genji. And so this is one of the things where, like, even Genji was kind of, at that moment, he was having stealth, and then they kind of had to take that away. He went from being a melee character to being more of a ranged character and stuff like that. So it's just very interesting to get them the chance to actually talk about, the design implementation behind the, the heroes, and kind of how they took things from Sombra and gave them to Genji, and how they took things from Genji and gave it to Sombra, kind of thing like that.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see the thought process and the workflow there. But yeah, they had some early iterations of Sombra. She had like throwing knives, kind of like the alternate fire for Genji, and it was pretty interesting. That art is probably pretty accessible, but it's very interesting. Yeah, you said like the stealth kind of got swapped, and then Genji got the thing. But yeah, she was around before the Shimada brothers actually in concept.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, we were talking about the stealth, and it's such a major ability. They kind of had to rework it so many times, and they talked specifically when Genji had it. It was ridiculous. They felt like he was way too overpowered when he was that stealthy melee character, and so taking another crack at the stealth was very they definitely, like I said, I give them a lot of props for actually attempting it and making it work as well as I think it feels.
Yeah, so when you go into stealth, you do have a significant run speed increase, and it is 100% stealth, right? So you don't see some sort of shimmer or shadows or anything like that.
That's the one big thing that everybody, I think, was kind of wondering, when we kind of got the idea that she was going to be a stealthy character is, most of, these other type of games, MOBAs and such that have stealthy characters, you have some way of actually kind of seeing them before they're unstealth to kind of give you some sort of way of dealing with them. And the way that they kind of went about doing this is she's completely stealth, but when she pops out of stealth, or when she, translocates or whatever, she actually does have audio cues that will kind of give her position away, kind of very similar to like Reaper when he shadow steps and stuff like that. So
yep, and you can use a translocator while you're stealth. We'll talk about that in just a second. And it does not break the stealth. Obviously, if you try to hack, which is your right click or primary attack, it will take you out of stealth, and you are able to get taken out of stealth if you receive damage. So if a Bastion's spraying and you walk in front of him, you will get caught. Winston. left click just is getting zapped. You will be taken out of stealth.
And again, it's important to note, obviously, Widowmaker's ultimate Infrasight will be able to see her. We did hear that, which, that very much could change, but I doubt it. I think that's a pretty safe bet that that'll stay the same, as well as Hanzo's Sonic Arrow will be able to see her as well.
All right, yeah, so let's talk about hack rest. This is going to be the alternate attack on the PC, and you are able to do a lot of things with hack. So it's like a pretty close range. You have to be pretty close, but you're able to hack players. You could disable abilities with that hack. You can hack turrets and health packs. It's pretty versatile.
Yeah, it's a very versatile ability, and I could definitely see this is going to make some big changes to the way people play out in certain maps and stuff. Like I said, we only played for a little bit on Sombra, but just certain things like being able to hack health packs is such a awesome ability to have, because you can lock that health pack out for a full minute, and no one else but your team can use it, and it also is going to make the health packs respawn quicker. So you can completely shut off areas where certain people flank a lot of times, and allow yourself to kind of lock that tracer down and not have her be able to get that health pack when she thinks she's going to be able to get to it. And there's just so many ways you can use this ability.
Yeah, and the health packs you hack do stay hacked for 60 seconds. Like you said, they'll respawn faster, and only your friendlies could take those. And at the moment, if there is a health pack that's hacked by an enemy, Sombra, you're not able to flip it over to your side. But those are kind of things that will change, like duration of hack. Those are the things that most likely are to change. And a lot of people are always asking, if you go on these streams, it's always, well, can this ability be hacked? What happens when this happens? Can this be hacked? Can this be hacked? But pretty much abilities could be hacked. So if it's an ability, ultimates are abilities. What happens when you're hacked is you're unable to use it, right? So if you hack a tracer, she can't blink or recall.
Yeah, that's going to be super strong on someone like a tracer to be able to lock her down. Like, you can think of her just getting into the mix, doing what she normally does, and as soon as you hack her, she's kind of a sitting duck there.
Yeah, so for the most part, all of your ults and your shift and E abilities on the PC, those are pretty much be unusable. You're still going to be able to double jump and wall climb. Things like that you'll still be able to do. Your alternate fires. People question, how do you hack a McCree roll or a sprinting 76? But it's a fantasy game.
Yeah, ultimately it's a game, and gameplay comes first, especially to Blizzard. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
So let's talk about the translocator. So this is, when I saw it for the first time, I'm like, oh, it's like a Warlock teleport from World of Warcraft. People are familiar with that. But pretty much you're able to place a translocator, and you're actually able to throw it, so you're able to get to a lot of places. She does have quite a bit of mobility, and she teleports to that translocator.
Right, and it's one of those things where you can throw it up, you can aim it a little bit, it will bounce off of walls. It only lands flat on the ground, so it won't stick to the side of a wall or such. You could throw it in a room, around a corner kind of thing, bounce it off of a high ceiling or something like that to get it. And it's important to note you can actually teleport while it's mid-air. So, there's just so many cool ways you can use it to jump gaps. You can run. You can start running stealth, which gives you a little, like we said, a movement speed increase. You can run in stealth, and also you can translocate without breaking the stealth. So you can run, jump across a huge gap, and even if you don't make the gap, you can throw the locator midair, translocate to that position, and make the jump and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, there's a lot of interesting things you do with. We've been playing Overwatch for some time now, so a lot of players, they understand. You have the mobility characters and you have the non-mobility characters, right? So the McCree, unless he gets like a Mei wall or something, there's places where he's not going to be. You have the characters like Genji and the Winstons, they're very vertical. They could get up and stuff. But Sombra is one of those. She could throw her translocator anywhere,
stealth,
and to it.
Movement speed. She's going to be all over the place. You really are going to have to kind of keep an eye on her.
Yeah, so the way it works currently, you throw your translocator, you have 16 seconds to teleport to your translocator, and it's the same ability, right? So the same button you use to throw your translocator is the same ability you use to teleport to it, and once you tele, it's a 6-second cooldown. So a lot of times when you want to get to a certain location or throw your translocator, you're just going to teleport just to get that off cooldown sooner.
Right, exactly. So yeah, as soon as you use it, or if you do wait out the 16 seconds, then you have that 6-second cooldown before you can throw another one down.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, it does not break stealth. It doesn't break stealth to throw the translocator or tele to it, and you have enough time to do both within a stealth. Your stealth is about 6 seconds. It's about the same as the cooldown.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I mean, her abilities, her kit is really versatile. You can use it in so many ways, and she's going to have a lot of mobility. So I expect her to be all over the place. A lot of people are going to have a lot of fun playing her.
Yep, and she has a passive called Opportunist, so she's able to see heroes at less than half health through the walls. It's kind of interesting. It doesn't look quite like a Hanzo or Widowmaker, a wall hack, but you are able to see people through walls that are low health. And, the little bit of like 3v3 skirmishes and footage that I've seen and done, it's pretty significant. It lets you know like when they're vulnerable. And a lot of times they're often running to health packs. You're able to take care of those as well.
Yeah, and not to mention that, I mean, with her high mobility and her stealth, I mean, as soon as you see somebody, I mean, the name Opportunist is really fitting for it because, like you said, if you see someone low at health, I mean, you could get there in a split second and just completely unload that 60 ammo right into their face and just take anybody out.
Yep, and of course, every hero in the game has an ultimate EMP. It's a pretty magical ability. A lot of people obviously think it's overpowered, but that's to be expected because she's a new hero.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's definitely a huge ability, and used in the right situation, it can feel overpowered like any ult pretty much. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people think. I mean,
Sombra what does it do? Let's say what it does.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, basically you're gonna be able to you build up your ult, you're gonna push Q, and it's gonna be like a huge hack. It's gonna be an AOE hack, and it's gonna hack everything in its radius.
Right, and I tested this. It didn't seem to be hacking the health packs, but yeah, it
doesn't have the health packs. Yeah, sorry, it doesn't hack health packs.
Yeah, so pretty much all the enemy players, they will be hacked. Which we said before, they're unable to use their abilities, but it does a little bit more than as well. It will completely shut down all shields. So if you think about a Lucio ultimate, it'll completely shut it down. There's a lot of characters who rely on shield, like a Zenyatta. If he doesn't have any shield, he only has 50 health.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, there's definitely very unique ways you can use this ability. And like I said, it will, I think, in certain situations, will feel definitely overpowered. So it's one of those things that can definitely change. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of situations where it's just going to be interesting how people learn to use this ability.
Yeah, but we have ults in the game currently that make characters unable to use abilities. I'm thinking of maybe like a Reinhardt ult. You're not able to use abilities, or a Mei ult.
It's like the worst feeling in the world to get Reinhardt ulted because it's coming. You can almost feel Reinhardt like stomping his way to you, and you're just like, oh gosh, it's over.
It's just a lot of people say it's OP because of the silence, and it's like, well, there's more impactful ults than that already, because not only are you silenced, but you're stunned and you're way more vulnerable and you're taking damage and all that.
And it really exists. I mean, it's one of those things where it has to be used together. I mean, even if you EMP, all 6 characters as, Sombra, like, what are you going to do? I mean, you have your machine pistol and stuff, but you're not going to be able to take out, multiple people by yourself without help. So
yeah, I mean, the way, and obviously a lot of this is, she just got released and announced within a few days. And, it's going to take a lot of, game time, seat time, play her, figure it out. We'll have a proper overview of her in the future as well. Especially once she settles with her build and she's actually in the game for real.
Right, exactly. And we can actually get our hands and play her and kind of tell you what we think. But
yeah, I mean, I think she's like an ult counter to the ult counters, right? So a lot of times you have the healing ult, like the Zenyatta and Lucio's, that counter the ults that you just drew up, but then you could counter that.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, yeah, she's one of those people where, I mean, you are sacrificing, a spot in your team makeup. So it's something you definitely have to consider because she only has 200 health. She is, on the lower side of that. She does decent damage, but ultimately she doesn't have an ult that does damage. She's not going to be able to just take people out with her ultimate. She's really one of those people that you have to know exactly how you're playing her and how you're using her in combination with your other team, and kind of you really have to make that choice with her.
Yeah, and it's important to point out the ult and hack kind of silence effect does also work if they're mid cast. So if like a Roadhog is mid huff, you will interrupt that as well. So if it's like a channel, it does interrupt it as well.
Yeah, or ults and stuff like that.
Yeah, and seeing all these interactions play out and how they play out, I mean, that's, half of all the fun.
Right.
Right, so like I said, we'll have a proper, strategy segment with Sombra when she's actually out of the game. But just for people to understand, like, wrap their heads around it, she's very, very slippery. She's very fun. She's, a little bit more difficult to play, probably to the potential, to a decent amount of, impactful gameplay. It's not a face roll. It's not a
Yeah, she has
No
a
brain,
3-star
no main
difficulty.
Winston.
She's definitely going to take some skill and some practice seat time. But I definitely look forward to her. Like I said, I mean, I think she's really going to shake things up, and I'm definitely looking forward to her.
All right, so continuing on with the Overwatch overview panel that we saw at BlizzCon, they also got into arcade mode. So this is something completely.
This is super exciting. I mean, if you've been playing Overwatch at all, you've been looking forward to something like this. Arcade mode is definitely going to be a great addition to this game. I can't wait for it to come out for sure.
So it is currently in the PTR, which is accessible to everybody. You just do it in your launcher. And so this is going to be a whole new mode. Think of it as a bunch of different game modes in one, right? So it's kind of like, it's kind of like an arcade, right? So like the previous kind of brawls will reside in there as well. A lot of the older brawls are in there. But obviously they're introducing a whole bunch of new modes. So let's just talk about them, right? So there's several modes, new and old. They said that it'll be curated, kind of like the brawls, they're kind of curated. They're talking about maybe 1 to 2 month kind of time frame. That's what you expect. A lot of new things to be added.
Yeah, and I mean they're going to be constantly looking at everything with these new modes and how they're playing out and their popularity and all that kind of stuff. So they will definitely be taking a look at this constantly. It's one of those things we're constantly iterating and curating over time, like they said. And you mentioned the brawls, and there's several of the popular brawls that are in there. And of course they mentioned maybe swapping modes in and out depending on the popularity and what they see with them, and maybe making changes. So it's definitely something that they're going to be constantly looking at.
Right, so when you click on arcade, you'll have a bunch of different options. You get to choose the mode you want to play in. A lot of new things, right? So we have a mystery duel 1v1, which is a best of 9. I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this is some good warm-up, right before I get my competitive.
It's really fun. I mean, I got a chance to play it a little bit, and it is, mystery duel. You don't get to pick your hero, so it's, 1v1. You log into it with, a random other person. You get a random character hero, and they get the same hero. So it's 1v1, you versus another person, and it's really cool just to kind of, like you said, it's warm-up practice. It's fun to play. I definitely look forward to it.
Yeah, so the characters are a mystery, but it's always a new hero every time. It's always the same hero. And, they mentioned multiple times on the panel that people will still find ways that it's imbalanced, even though it's 1v1 or
I mean, that's the point
whatever.
Of a forum, right? It's just for people to go there and find ways to talk about how things are overpowered or unfair, and even though they're 1v1, same character, same everything. But, yeah.
And that's a best of 9. So there's also 3v3 elimination, which is a best of 5. And this is very reminiscent if people are familiar with 3v3 in World of Warcraft Arena.
Yeah, and this is another thing that I'm really looking forward to, because I am a big fan of 3v3 in World of Warcraft and any kind of 3v3 elimination. I mean, it is a best of 5 single or group queue. You can get in there by yourself, and you can find yourself other 2 players, or you can get in a full group of 3 players versus 3 other players. And you do get to lock in your own hero. You can choose your hero, but then once you choose for the start of the round, you are locked in for that entire round.
Right, so once you die, you are out for the round, and obviously the last group with Survivor wins. And I'm thinking that this actually might take off. I mean, the PTR has only been up for a few hours, but the 3v3 elimination is the most popular, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but you actually get to see what's more popular. That might help with queue times and stuff as well, but 3v3 was the most popular. And, we'll talk also about the new map that's implemented. So you're not doing the 3v3 elimination on New Bonnie or whatnot. They actually have dedicated arena maps. We'll probably see more of those as well.
Yeah, for something like this, I mean, obviously it makes sense not to be on a huge map separated by a lot of room. I mean, obviously the whole point is to eliminate each other and to fight, 1v1 or 3v3. And so there's a whole new map, and I'm sure we'll see, like you said, a lot more of them. They're going to be much smaller, which is really cool that they get a chance to kind of tinker with new maps and for different types of game modes. And it's going to be fun to kind of see what they can come up with. I mean, the first map that we're going to talk about, I got a chance to play it, and it's definitely a really cool map. It's laid out pretty interesting. So
yeah, but potentially huge future for the 3v3 elimination. Currently there's no health packs or anything, so maybe like a Roadhog is really strong. But I mean, most likely, it's just interesting the strategy, right? Like, do you have the healer and tank and damage, or do you have like 2 tanks and healer? Do you not have a healer at all? Those different strategies could be pretty interesting, but I think that really revolves around the success, at least on how balanced it is. So if it's really broken and it's like, there's one OP comp,
we're gonna see a lot of weird things coming out of the 3v3 when your only option is 3 different heroes. You're gonna see some, I'm sure, one-sided comps come out of that, and so we're interested to see how that kind of works out. But
yep, just like World of Warcraft OP comp. So there's also Mystery Heroes 6v6. So this is it used to be a brawl, I believe.
Yeah, it's basically one of the more popular brawls. Is basically you just get in there just like a regular 6v6 match, and these are on the actual maps themselves, and it's just random. You're going to get a random hero, and you're going to be locked into that hero for the round. And so
Until
it's
you
cool
die.
Until you die, yeah, sorry, not the round, but just until you die. But and you'll be locked in that hero, and it's cool to see, to kind of just jump in. Like you said, it's a really cool warm-up thing, and it's interesting to actually get in there and kind of get a random hero and just play with that person regardless of if you've had playtime on them or not. And it's a good way to find if you like certain heroes, if you like different ones that you're not used to playing.
Yeah, and this is an example of Team 4 listening to player feedback. A lot of them saying, we really like this brawl. We want it to always be available, and it was definitely one of the, if not the most popular brawls they've had. So, they listened, and now it's in the game, and you could do it whenever you like.
Right. So, again, just awesome work on them to actually listen and take feedback. And, just shows how much they're putting into this game and looking forward to making good changes for the benefit of the game.
Yep. So there's even more things to do in the arcade, right? There's a 6v6 no limits, and that's going to be different from the 6v6 limits and quick play, because quick play is going to inherit the one hero limit.
Right. So as competitive play is now, quick play is going to that. It's going to be the one hero limit. And like they said, they didn't want to kind of tinker with that too much. They like having the one hero limit. They think it's really beneficial where the game currently sits to have the hero limits, so that they have a way that people can practice playing with the same rules competitive without actually having to play for competitive skill rating and all that. But they wanted to keep the old quick play in there, so they kind of added this 66 no limits for people to just kind of go in and have fun.
Yep, and there's also a section for all the brawls. So all the previous brawls, there's a space dedicated for them. So if you had a favorite one, and it's also important to point out, when they have events kind of like the Junkenstein's Revenge, maybe we'll get one for Christmas, who knows?
Hopefully, yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of stuff would also be in the arcade. So all that stuff lives in there.
Right, so it's like your one little place for all your different little fun modes that are not competitive or quick play. So yeah, that's, like I said, it's a great addition. I think they did an amazing job with it, and I cannot wait for it.
Yes, and also a very important feature, I mentioned it already, but there is a indication of popularity of the modes. So when you go into arcade, there's a little, kind of like a little bar graph, and it lets you know, there's this one's really popular, and this one's the most popular, and that kind of gives you an idea of queue times, right? So if there's no one really queued or very small people amount of queuing, that might affect queue time. So it's just a visual indication of, all right, this is what's most popular. You can expect, instant queue. And I think it's an important little feature.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something cool. It's not crazy, time intensive for them to do something like that. It's just a cool little feature for them to add, and I think it's a really good thing for us.
And another thing the community has been asking since before the game came out is actually some rewards for doing these other modes.
Right. So for those of you that are really keen on earning those loot crates and kind of being able to get those, those skins and those items and all that kind of stuff, this is really cool for them to actually add this in the game where you can actually earn loot crates through these modes.
Right. So the very first week, and these will be resetting weekly. The first week, probably a promotional thing, you will be able to earn a total of 5 loot crates, but normal weeks you could expect 3 loot crates, and you do actually have to win games. And it's important to point out it's any of these modes, so you could win on the 1v1s, the 3v3s, the brawls, or what have you. But you just you win 3, you'll get a loot crate. Win 3 loot crate. Win 3 loot crate. And so every week you come back, it's pretty much 3 free loot crates, and you're probably already going to be there doing those already, but just a nice little incentive for that.
Yeah, it's incentive for the time spent. Not everybody, enjoys quick play or, competitive play. Some people, it's just not their thing, and they just want to go in and have fun. They want to actually benefit from that. So it's really cool that they did that. Yeah,
and something that just came to my mind, speaking of rewards, they do have a cross-promotional with Heroes of the Storm, we should mention, because there's going to be a skin involved with that, a special Genji skin.
Right, which I am definitely looking forward to. It's one of the things, like I said in the past, I'm not usually crazy big on skins, but Genji is one hero that I definitely enjoy. I have a couple of skins already, and this one looks really cool. I like it.
Yeah, so I'm certain we'll remind our listeners when that time comes, because I believe it's still like a week away or so. But what you're going to have to do is just group up with one other person, or you just have to play with your friends on Heroes of the Storm in any mode for 15 games, and you unlock. It's also like a portrait and some other things as well, but it's a Genji exclusive skin.
Right. So you'll get, I believe it's 2 portraits in Heroes of the Storm, and then you'll get, your Genji skin for 15 or more games, and then there's actually another one at 30 or more games.
Yeah, but we're interested in the Overwatch rewards, and so
right, the
15
Overwatch
games,
reward is 15 games. So if you want that Genji skin, it's 15 or more games.
Yeah, and it's like a 6-week span, so you don't have to do it all one day or anything.
And it's the Oni Genji, which looks super sick. If you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, you can go check that out. I will actually put a link in it at the bottom of the show for you guys. You guys can check that out.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people like to have all the skins and collect all the things, and it sounds like it will be an exclusive thing. It's a time limit, between this day and that day. So, we'll keep you posted on that. But it just came to my mind. I thought, we were talking about rewards. It reminded me of that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's talk about the Eco Point Antarctica. So we talked about this a little bit. So this is a special map for the smaller team-based little arena map. Pretty much, they call it arena map.
Right. So like the mystery duels and the the 3v3 eliminations and such, they're going to be played currently on this Eco Point Antarctica, and like we said, maybe we'll see more, I'm sure, in the future. But this is currently the only one right now.
Yep, and it is pretty interesting, really fun. Obviously, there's some verticality to it. Currently no health packs, but those are kind of things that may change in the PTR. But it's interesting. It's not too big, but it's not too small.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. I mean, it looks, from a first glance, it looks a little bit smaller. I mean, it's definitely smaller than the regular maps, but it looks kind of small. But there's actually some rooms that you can kind of go in and stuff. It's very interesting. So definitely kind of check it out. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how people use that to their advantage and kind of, I could imagine tracers. I played a couple games with Tracer on there, and it's like you could just run around and just come out different locations and, somewhere people won't expect you.
Yep, and this is Antarctica. It's the home base of May. So we got a little bit more story and behind the scenes for May, right? So we do know that this is pretty much like a scientific laboratory in Antarctica. And what happened, I guess they were saying, is a huge major storm hit, and May, along with the other scientists, I guess maybe ran out of supplies or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, a huge storm, they're not able to get out and go for supplies, so they have a limited run of supplies. They run low on those supplies, and then it comes to a point where they have to make a decision on what they have to do, and so they kind of go into cryostasis for a time.
Yeah, so I guess their thinking was, they did work, with Overwatch, so they're thinking, okay, we'll just freeze ourselves. Overwatch will come save us when the storm's all said and done, but it's not what happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, Overwatch had its own problems. They had a lot of other stuff going on, and so it took some time before at least we know May was finally, uniced, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess it was like more than a decade later, and we've heard the voice lines of May, saying, "Oh, how you look so young? How do you do it?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't recommend cryostasis," but so pretty much preserved her
age. Yeah, so even though she's much older than she actually is, she doesn't look it.
Yeah, but I mean, we knew a little bit about that already. But so we actually get to actually go and visit the place where she was doing her studies, and it's an interesting map. And that wasn't the only map that we learned about. We learned about Oasis.
Right, so a brand new map, and this one is for the actual regular game for competitive and quick play. It is a control, or as many people know, it is a King of the Hill map.
Right. They did mention they call it control, and everyone else calls it King of the Hill. I know Heroes of Storm had that issue as well with the actual name of the game. They call it one thing. They want to call it a brawler, and they want to call it HOTS or whatever. I don't even know. But anyways, the community, we're going to call it what we call it. We know it as King of the Hill or Koth. And yeah, so it's very, very interesting. You want to let us know, what do we know about that?
Right, so it's a brand new map. Like I said, we just basically got to see a little bit of sneak peek of it and heard a little bit about it. But it's basically a highly advanced city. It's in the Arabian Desert, and it was basically founded by these scientists who wanted to be able to create this technologically advanced city. But because of regulations where they're located in the city and such, they had to kind of move this idea way away from regular civilization. They moved it to the desert of Arabia. So
yeah, I could see like the governments and different things 6 years in the future kind of, tying people's hands and not letting them do what they want to do. But yeah, so scientists took the matters in their hands. They went to the Arabian Desert, made this, crazy metropolitic kind of city.
I mean, it really looks amazing. I mean, I had people talking about it and people talking to me about it being in, the middle of the Arabian Desert. And it's kind of interesting because it is this huge metropolitic place. It doesn't look like it's something you'd find in the middle of a desert. Yeah,
so Team 4 is experimenting with some new features, specifically a jump pad on this map, which a lot of people are familiar with in the past. The old shooters, but very interesting. He said just want to put jump pads all over the place, so probably expect maybe just one or two in the map because it should be a mirrored map depending on how they do that. But very interesting jump pad.
Right. So, I mean, they specifically talked about it in internal testing, how it was a super fun, addition to the map, and use it in conjunction with, different abilities. And I'm sure we can find some really interesting ways to use the jump pad. But again, like you said, they didn't want to riddle them all over the map and kind of make things really crazy. They want to kind of get feedback and see how people like the jump pad and is it affecting the game in a positive way or not. So yeah, there's going to be 1, maybe 2 jump pads in the map, and we'll be able to kind of get feedback and give them feedback and kind of see how things work out, see how we like them.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that works out. Obviously, you just imagine the ultimates and ability
There's
combinations.
so many different weird things you could think about doing with the jump pad, so it's super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Deadeye, especially if there's not like much place for cover, could be extremely dangerous.
Yeah, some crazy combinations can come out of that. I mean, it's very interesting to think about, how things might react to that. It's one of the fun things about new game modes, new maps, and new additions to, different things with games is just kind of figuring out how things react with them. It's one of the things that makes us gamers is this, this interest in how things kind of play out.
Yeah, I think Junkrat maybe make a return, right? Because he could put the trap on the jump pad, and he could probably run his tire of the jump pad. Crazy flying tire.
You wouldn't see that coming at all. He just jumps it off the jump pad, and you're like, where is it? And it's above your head the whole time.
I mean, I don't know, like, how high are we going here? Like,
yeah, exactly. There's so many unknown things about it. Like I said, we only kind of seen pictures, and we didn't even see any jump pads on the map, really, that I saw. So it's just very interesting to kind of think about how things will work.
Because all the characters will have verticality on that map, right? Because, a lot of the balance is, they don't have the verticality.
You could have a freaking Ana ulted Reinhardt jumping off the jump pad. Could you imagine something like that? It's crazy.
Yeah. You know what's going to be bad is when Reinhardt tries to ult in the air. He has to wait all the time, Him.
Or Lucio, let's break it down.
Yeah. They're not able to push Q.
Yeah.
Well,
I can see so many people doing that. I think it's so hilarious when you see people do that. I see people jump off of buildings and stuff with Lucio, and it's just like now they're ulting in midair. It's like, okay.
It's just a lot of new players. They'll jump before they hammer down or drop the beat, and it's like
it delays it. So it's a really funky thing to see. But.
Yeah, so we don't have an exact date when the new map Oasis is going to be coming out, but they gave us a little time frame. So they're saying hopefully it'll be on the PTR in December, which is close, next month. And they're shooting for an early release in 2017.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, definitely not too far along, not too far away. I mean, hopefully things will kind of fall, like I said, in that time frame. I mean, December, like I said, is really pretty close for this new map. So definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully it comes out soon.
Yeah, we got to see a lot of pictures, a lot of overviews, and they did say, the art isn't finalized, it'll probably look better. But yeah, it looked really neat, bunch of new things, I
mean, the art as it was, as far as like the concept art of what we saw, looked amazing. So, I mean...
but it wasn't just concept art. We actually did see like 3D camera through the map and stuff.
Yeah, we did. We did see a lot of that as well. So, I mean, like I said, I think things are far enough along to definitely potentially see this in December on the PTR. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right, so let's talk about the Overwatch Q&A. So in the past BlizzCons, what they did is they just had Q&As at the end of the panels. But for a few games, including Overwatch, they just had a panel dedicated to Q&A. So the whole, 45-minute or hour slot or whatever was just Q&As. So we're not going to talk about all the things because, there's some bad questions. But we're going to give you the things that are important. I guess we can start with the question that I asked.
So, yeah, I wonder, what is the most important question that got asked? Was it maybe Wesley's question? We'll see.
I mean, I'm not saying it was the most important, but it was relevant, Something that a lot of people have been asking about, including myself, and I've been championing this on the forums. But
we've been talking about it quite a bit. I mean, we put a forum post on the forums on competitive specifically about this question. So it's one thing we've been talking about quite a lot.
But yeah, I mean, I was thinking of how I could phrase and all this, but I mean it's really simple. I just pretty much asked Jeff, concerning competitive only, are we ever going to get a solo only queue?
Right, so solo only queue. We're looking at something, like I said, we talked about in the past. I mean, we would be okay with maybe like a solo duo queue, but preferably we want a solo only queue, which basically means there's no chance of groups whatsoever. Everybody is on their own merit, playing on their own skill, and they just have to work to try and make things work out with the team. And so you don't have people being carried. You don't have people in groups with people that are really good and they're not where they should be, and kind of, making things really weird for the matchmaking. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not trying to shy away from the group play or take anything away from that. The reason why I want solo queue is only for quality matches. So obviously I still want the grouping to exist, but I'm just thinking, quality matches is a priority. I would say. And I think if you had a solo only queue, that would equal better quality matches.
Right. It expedites a lot of things because then you don't have a lot of variables. I mean, that's ultimately what we're talking about. And I mean, I understand the answer we got from Jeff, and maybe you can talk about it.
But yeah, I mean, pretty much, I mean, in a nutshell, Jeff said that, the direction they want to take is they want to implement and encourage systems that are more for groups, right? So they want to, I mean, he didn't come out and say like clans or whatever, but pretty much have systems like where you're able to find others to play with. And he did say, if they fail horribly in the future, they wouldn't be against adding a solo queue feature, but
right. So I mean, like we said, they're definitely open to listening to feedback. I mean, I'm not faulting for that. They definitely do an amazing job of listening to feedback so far. But and like I said, we definitely understand where Jeff's coming from. They have a vision of what the game is and what they want it to be, and I think Blizzard as a whole has always kind of very revolved itself around groups and kind of making it available and accessible to everybody to be able to get into groups with their friends, not have to worry about all these little rules and things like that, and just kind of hop in and have fun with their friends, which we totally understand. And that's why we don't want to see the grouping go away. But I think ultimately what they have to understand is that it makes a huge impact on other people's games and their play. And I mean, I think ultimately they kind of have to come to realize that they may not be able to have that vision like they want.
Yeah, so I mean, in a nutshell, he told me to make friends, and
the answer is, ladies and gentlemen, make friends, find new people to play with and group up, because that's ultimately the direction they want to take. And like I said, hopefully, I mean, I would love to see their vision. I mean, I trust Blizzard, and I think they do such an amazing job. So we hope that they don't fail. We hope that they succeed and they be able to bring their vision to us, then we can kind of play it the way they want to. But I mean, I think ultimately, we might hopefully later on in the future see some change.
Yeah, and in the Overwatch booth, they did have a solo-only queue where people stood by themselves. And it's kind of like the real game because you obviously didn't go up against other solo queuers. You went up against groups.
Definitely.
So it's like the same thing, yeah. And but yeah, anyways, yeah, so let's talk about some other questions. There were some other good questions, right? So there's a guy who asked about the Roadhog hook and like
definitely a question that I want an answer to, because I mean, as a person who played quite a bit of Roadhog, I mean, he's a fun hero to play, and the hook is such an amazing ability, just mechanically the way that it plays out. But I mean, with I think even recently with the changes that they've made to it, things have gotten pretty bad with the way that the hook tracks.
Yeah, so pretty much what we learned from that is they are making a hook 2.0, they call it. It's in the works. It's something they've been working on. So
they're gonna make the hook great again, ladies and gentlemen.
Make the hook great again.
Maybe
it was
not
always
so much
great,
for Roadhog, but maybe better for tracers of the world.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is the collisions. It's like the size of a bus, and you could be around corners and on completely different levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's good news. Hook 2.0 in the works. Probably pretty soon. See, but they did act like it was something that they were working on for quite some time.
Yeah, they did mention that it would be pretty quickly that it will be coming out. So hopefully we'll see that really shortly.
All right, and someone also had some questions about the server browser. So something they've actually mentioned even before the game came out. But Kaplan does like the idea of a server browser. And that's something that's going to be probably seen much further down the road. People who are not familiar with server browsers, pretty much, I can make my game on New Bonnie and set my own rule sets, and then it's public, so other people, could come join me.
Yeah, they can come search for, games that are currently going on, or create their own game, and just be able to hop in and have fun and not worry about the rule sets and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's something they talked about quite a bit, a bunch of times, and it's one of those things where people kind of think like, oh, they forgot about it, but every time they talked about it, it's one of those things where it's a cool idea. They definitely want to look forward to adding that in the future, but it's something in the much later future. It's something that it's a pretty big undertaking to do, along with all the other things that they're kind of working on. So it's definitely something that we will see, I'm sure, later on in the future, but it's going to be much later on.
Yeah, so the last thing that's important to know is they did talk a little bit about the MMR system and how it's constantly being worked on and being improved. So they don't look at it as, all right, season 1, this is the MMR system, this is how it works. Kaplan always talks about how they have the best guy that builds the best MMR system, and how he's constantly working on it. So it's always something that's being worked on. It's always evolving, always striving for that better quality match.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I said, it's one of those things they've mentioned time and time again. It's a huge thing. It's the main concern with the game is, fair matches and MMR system. And so that's something they're constantly working on. So they have not left that behind. They're constantly looking at it, and we can take a little bit of comfort knowing that, they're making changes.
Yep, and I'm definitely looking forward to Season 3 and the improvements we are going to find there.
Yeah, I mean, just in Season 1 and 2, I mean, we made such leaps and bounds over Season 1 that, I mean, I definitely feel confident in the changes coming to Season 3. So.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about competitive Overwatch, specifically the Overwatch World Cup.
Right, so pretty huge. I mean, this is the first year that Overwatch has been at at BlizzCon, to have their own competitive Overwatch World Cup is definitely something that we've been talking about quite a bit and definitely looking forward to. I look forward to seeing it. It was done really well, and I think it's a pretty amazing accomplishment.
Right, and, we talked a lot about this, obviously, every show since. But, so there wasn't big prize money. It wasn't big pro teams or anything. But it was kind of interesting how they had, because the game kind of came out late in the year, you need time and all the planning to create a legitimate league, which obviously we'll be talking about. But, so it was fun. People nominated their famous streamers and other pros and stuff. So there was, some good quality games, though.
Right, there's definitely some really good quality games. I think of several of the quarterfinal games were really good that we got to see, and like we said, the layout, the presentation, just the quality that Blizzard brought to the production was amazing. Like you said, 2,600 people roughly, the seating. I mean, the arena looked amazing. They did such an amazing job on it. I definitely thought they did a great job. Yeah,
and all the seats in that arena were all really good seats, by the way, and yeah, it was amazing. The quality, very impressed. I was very impressed.
Yeah, and I mean, even just the recent changes that they've made to the Observer, client on the game to be able to view the game and be able to view it in very unique ways. So, I mean, I think they did a really good job. I mean, the presentation, the, people on the floor, the actual, panelists and that as well. I mean, they did an amazing job. So
yeah, and the casters and commentators did really well. I'm sure they had a great team working on that. And they're showcasing some of the newer features. You could always get a third person on all the people. Not just Reinhardt, because I remember back in the days, like Reinhardt, when he has a shield out as third person, that was always a good view to spectate the Reinhardts. But yeah, you could get third person on any of the characters. The nice camera switching and a pause feature, which was used. I mean, not they didn't need it very much. I just saw it once personally.
Right, pause function, it did get used, and then as well as just the different view angles and such, like you mentioned, and having even instant replays on some of the things we saw. So that's something that they could definitely work on. I've seen some instances where there was a little bit of timing issue and stuff like that, but I mean, I think they did a really good job.
So in my opinion, the best match was the actual bronze match, right? It was Finland versus Sweden. It was very, very close games, and obviously a lot of pros, a lot of people, those that people are familiar with. You had Tavik, IDQD, you had Chips, you had Coco, and that was just one team.
Right. So, I mean, there were several really good matches. Finland and Sweden was a really good one, the bronze match. If you guys want to go and watch a really good match, that was a super close game. Great players across the board. And this was one of the two teams that had more of the pro players on them. So it was really good top-level play. They played really well. I think of even as like Russia and France was a pretty close one as well. It was really good to see those two teams play out too.
Yeah, so the finals did come down to South Korea versus Russia. And at this point, South Korea won every game. They never dropped a map. And unfortunately, U.S. actually had to go up against South Korea earlier on.
Yeah, they didn't fare too well, unfortunately. I mean, it was a best of 3, so they did get swept 0-2. They lost out to Korea. But they did have some signs that they played, in certain matches I can think of. Iconvolve, they did really well on. There were definitely signs of coming back, and hopefully, maybe if they would have faced them later on and, the best of 5 or such, they would have done better. So
yeah, the thing was, I mean, to me, the U.S. versus South Korea game was, U.S. They showed more promise than Russia did in the final game.
Yeah, they definitely did, and I think a lot of that unfortunately revolves around the fact that the team makeups, like we said, were not they weren't all just pro players. So Russia did have they did have some really good players. They had Unfixed. They did have Shadowburn, who I'm sure we will definitely talk about. I mean, he was all over the place with that Genji. I mean, he's an amazing Genji player, but I mean, one player in and of itself doesn't make a team.
Yeah, so we can talk a little bit more about the finals. So yeah, you had Shadowburn, which is he's known for his Genji play, but he's on the Russian team. Very, very good player. It definitely carried the team through a lot of the finals and stuff.
I think of versus France, Russia versus France. He definitely carried that team. I mean, Fix did some work as well, but it really was Shadowburn at the end of the day that really carried them through that round, because I don't think anybody thought that France had a chance versus Russia, and they really put up a better fight than I thought they were going to. So,
but yeah, I mean, a few reasons I think South Korea was so dominant, right? So they understood that Shadowburn was, kind of their strongest link.
Yeah, he was a key player. He's the one that they definitely had to deal with.
So I think the South Korea took that into their strategy. They actually did, hard counter Shadowburn quite a bit, so they had that advantage a lot of times. And they were more versatile with the picks. I believe as far as ult economy goes, South Korea was always ahead.
And that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, and one of the things that if you watch pro play, it is probably one of the most important parts of any team game is, the ultimate economy. I mean, currently the way the game kind of revolves around the uses of your ult and your combinations. And so being able to, conserve your ults, use them in, the correct fashion, and be able to kind of save them when something else is coming. Having that, breakdown by Lucio and saving that when you need it is important.
Yeah, it just seemed like South Korea was always ahead on ults. They knew exactly how many ults. They didn't use more than they needed. They always had more damage output. They were always generating their ults faster. It's just kind of like a snowball effect. I mean, the best chances you have against South Korea was the very first team fight. And usually South Korea won, and they took that advantage throughout the entire match.
And that will be the only thing I can say about, kind of a Genji composition is when you have a great Genji like Shadowburn and you're going up against a team that, is good but maybe doesn't, understand exactly what they need to do in all the right situations versus someone who's really good as Shadowburn. You see it snowball and you see it become such a crazy, composition. You see the Dragon Blade come out, you see, the combinations, the breakdown with the Dragon Blade or something like that, and he just takes out the whole team. And they do such an amazing work when you play really good Genji, but at the same time, if you get hard countered, and we've seen it time and time again, he, pulled out the Dragon Blade, or even right before the Dragon Blade, he got, stunned by the Reinhardt ult, and he's just taken out of the game, and then the whole team just falls apart, and you really have nothing to deal with, the aggression of South Korea.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to point out was with South Korea, we noticed that they knew exactly when to contest points and exactly when not to. So a lot of the teams, they kind of default to always reset the team fights, right? If they get a pick or if they lose one player, they'll just wait for the spawn and they'll go in again. But with South Korea, they actually, exploited that. Even, obvious things like, we have a closer spawn, so we're not just going, we're down one, but it's okay if we kill one person on their team. They have a much further, spawn, and it just seemed like their strategy going in, they're just more aggressive. They weren't like, let's just wait it out and just have a clean team fight again. No, I mean, they exploited it. They just, kept running in.
Right. So they know when to aggress, and they really made, Russia pay for over-aggressing on the defensive side in certain situations. And whenever they got that pick, and they just flopped things around and just took it straight to them. And that really, I think that really made the difference, because Shadowburn done such an amazing job, all week long on that Genji. But really, when he got taken out, or when he got over-aggressed on, he really got countered super hard. The team we've seen that a little bit with France. So France really tried to do a little bit of a different, they kind of went around or went through the Genji and kind of didn't too much bother with him. And we saw his team kind of fall apart, under the weight of being, kind of focused. So, South Korea kind of did, very same thing as far as, aggressing on the team and kind of showing where their weaknesses lie.
But yeah, overall, the World Cup was awesome. I mean, the players were all really excited to be there. Even when they lost, they're all having a good time. It's all just for fun. And yeah, I just can't wait till next year. I'm hoping we might even be in the arena next year in Overwatch.
That would be pretty awesome. So yeah, definitely looking forward to next year. I mean, there's just so much stuff that's going to happen from now until then, and definitely looking forward to all of it.
All right, so lastly, let's talk about the Overwatch League, right? So we already said at the top of the show, this is probably the most important announcement.
Definitely the single most important thing that came out of the news from BlizzCon. And it's one thing that I think we are super excited about and looking forward to seeing how things kind of pan out with this.
Right, so they did have some introductory videos that kind of explain the Overwatch League, a few of them. You can go on their YouTube, play Overwatch, and check them out.
It's on the launcher right now, I believe. Still, you can kind of check out the introduction to the Overwatch League, which is what we're talking about, and get some information on that.
Right, so pretty much Blizzard will be organizing these combines where players can individually kind of prove themselves, and that sounds pretty exciting already, right? So Blizzard's giving people the opportunity. Do you think you have what it takes to actually go pro and be pro, and from an actual individual basis, right? So these teams will be formed from these combines, and contracts will actually be signed. And once that happens, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is the thing. I mean, they're kind of following a very traditional sports kind of look with this, where you have like football and basketball, you have combines. You show up, you prove your skills, you get noticed really easily. When you have the combine, you have all these investors and all these teams coming to the combine, checking out these players, and it makes it super easy and stable for players to get noticed when they're really good, for teams to notice players and be able to pick up players. I think of teams that just recently dropped their whole team or dropped several players off their whole team for whatever reason, and they're looking for players. Right now, it's not super easy for a player to get noticed unless they're part of an already existing team or they're doing really well and they're able to network very well. This takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. You just show up, prove yourself, like you said, on an individual basis, which is super important because you're not going to get carried in the situation. So the team doesn't have to worry about, did this person just do really well in this situation? Is this only a Genji main, that kind of thing? I mean, it really takes a lot of that out of it.
Yep, and it's going to just offer an immense amount of stability for the players themselves. They don't have to worry about that paycheck. They will be getting paid salary, benefits and everything. So it's definitely looking promising for them.
And another thing that we kind of didn't really talk about or haven't really kind of covered, but with these the contracts, they're going to be, all this is put together by Blizzard. So the contracts are going to be solved. They're going to be they're going to be a part of this. And so you're not going to have a lot of people, like you said, a lot of roster switching with this. It's going to create, it's just so much stability across the board that is created by this. And it's just such a great idea and great job that Blizzard's doing and really putting themselves wholeheartedly behind the game and behind this esports league.
Yeah, important to point out that this is worldwide. It's not just North America. It's going to be all over the world, and the teams will be localized right near the major cities. So familiar with traditional sports, right? You have LA Lakers, right? There's a city tied to that, right?
Exactly. So they're city localized. These teams will be built. They'll be able to represent their city, and they'll be able to, like I said, it's just such an amazing job all across the board. And I can't wait for it. It looks so amazing.
Yep, and the way I look at it, Blizzard really kind of, I think I've said this already, but they really, are exposing themselves to this. They have faith. They are willing to put out the money. This is going to be extremely expensive.
Yeah, what did you say? The numbers you were hearing, what, 100,000 per player? Or?
100K a year per player. Obviously we don't know anything.
Yeah, that's nothing set in stone, but that sounds pretty crazy already. It's definitely something that's going to be expensive for Blizzard to kind of fork out, and it just means that they're really behind it and they really trust that this game is going to take off and this esports is going to be a big thing. Yep,
and definitely looking forward to the future. Like we said, we'll be covering that certainly, and all the information. And so get your skills up right now.
Yeah, definitely work on it, practice, and do you think you have what it takes? Maybe we'll see you pretty soon in the Overwatch League. It'd be super exciting, and we're definitely looking forward to it.
It's good to point out though that the Tempo Storms and the Fanatics and everyone you love, the organizations, they're not going away. They're all invited as well.
Right. So this is all in addition to what we already have going. It's just going to grow things in such an immense way. So yeah, I can't wait for it. Super excited. And I think that's going to do it for this show. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Yes. Thank you again. We love to hear from you, actually. We love to hear your questions, and we could answer them on the show possibly next time. We will have contact info in our description below. And I did want to point out that this is brought to you by Two Moon Studios. And remember, at the beginning we talked about following us, so we're going to be giving away a free t-shirt, right?
Yeah, definitely. So follow us on Twitter at Two Moon Studios. We will be giving you a chance to win the very first Two Moon Studios t-shirt, and we're going to be putting up a lot of those, I'm sure, in the future. So definitely check us out, or you can definitely send your questions to our podcast email at aheroeswelcomepodcast@gmail.com.
All right, and thanks again for all those people who have reached out to us and wrote to us already. We really appreciate it. We read everything. We reply to everybody. And thanks again so much. Until next time.
Next time.